December 2012, Bakersfield, California, a young man named Ethan had a demonic encounter. After returning from school, Ethan was tired and, well, pretty worn out from the day, but still had plenty of homework to do. He worked late into the night before finally collapsing into his bed. He fell asleep instantly, but did not sleep soundly. He dreamt that an evil being was in his home, and it was trying to get into his room. It finally broke in, and as soon as it did, Ethan jolted awake with a ringing sound in his ears. Ethan felt the demon. It was on the wall behind his head, holding Ethan's limbs down. It had something in his ears, and his left ear began to vibrate violently. The strange sensation spread to his right ear as well. Ethan fought as best he could, but he could not break free. He cursed at the being and tried to free his arms or legs. The demon only laughed at him, an eerie and horrific sound that was neither deep nor high-pitched. The demon cried out, "Soon!" and released Ethan. Ethan sat up rapidly, leaping out of the bed to turn on the lights, but when the light flooded his bedroom, there was nothing out of the ordinary. However, Ethan's dogs were acting abnormal, barking, leaping at the door, and trying desperately to get their owner. He went to the bathroom and was startled to see his reflection in the mirror. His eyes were bloodshot, with the whites of the eyes completely red. Ethan realized he had been visited by a succubus demon. Ethan remains terrified of the demon returning, but has not had another incident ever since. These experiences took place at different times, though I have kept a journal regarding each experience. The first experience was on February 14th, 2012. It was late evening, nearing midnight when this occurred. My fiance, well, we'll call him Devin, had just returned home from work. When he gets home, we have a routine of smoking upon his arrival. Now, this night was no exception. We went out to his car and smoked, and returning inside after we had finished. Allow me to explain the general layout of my living room. In my living room, there are 2 recliners and 2 couches. The recliners are claimed by my grandparents, while the couches are up for grabs by, well, anyone in the house. One of the couches is located next to the kitchen, and the other is located next to the TV, which is placed right in the far corner of the room. My eldest brother was lying on the couch that was next to the kitchen, so Devin and I took the couch next to the TV. I recall at the time that my grandmother was watching a movie on TV, but I cannot remember which movie it was. Since I plopped down on the couch first, I was lying with my back pressed against the back of the couch, and Devin was lying in front of me on the edge of the couch. We remained this way for a good 10 or 20 minutes or so. As we were lying there, I had a sensation in my leg as if I were about to have a muscle cramp. Since leg cramps aren't exactly delightful, I figured that if I ignore the feeling, it would go away. And this eventually did work, but the sensation changed. It wasn't until Devin sat up and announced he was soon to be washing his hair that the sensation changed from cramping to stimulating. Let's just say I was randomly becoming aroused. I thought nothing of it, as I can do this voluntarily, though I will note the feeling was a lot different for me when it's me, but I still suspected nothing other than a strong imagination. It wasn't until Devin left the room to wash his hair that I was made to reconsider that thought. Upon hearing the door close behind him as he went about washing his hair, the oddest thing happened in a hairline of a moment. I heard myself saying in my own head, "I want you," not knowing who I was addressing. What or why I was addressing them in such a manner. I didn't have much time to think about it, because right after I had said this, the stimulating effect turned into something deeper. I was shocked and a bit confused as to what was happening. I had read multiple accounts on the subject where the victim is unable to move, and that usually happens when what's called the twilight stage of sleeping. It's when you're asleep but yet you're still aware. Well, I was wide awake during this encounter, of that I'm sure. I had also tested my mobility and found that I was in fact able to move. This carried on over for a good 5 to 7 minutes and stopped when Devin returned from washing his hair. He claimed to have only been gone for no more than 2 minutes, but there was just no way he'd been gone for such a short amount of time. I decided that it was simply my imagination running wild and that it would never happen again. Funny how wrong one can be. The second experience I had was on March 14th, 2012, a month later. I was lying in bed and Devin was in the kitchen getting some food. The TV was on, which was the only source of light at the time, and I was facing away from it, lying on my left side. Suddenly, I felt a presence enter the room. And the first thought in my head was, well, hello there. I'm not stirred by this, as I've had my fair share of experiences with the paranormal. I just continued lying quietly, listening to the silent scuffles this presence made as it drew nearer to me. The scuffling stopped, and I felt what seemed to be fingertips gently touch the top of my head and lightly caress my hair. As this went on, I had a sensation that overtook my entire body. The only way to describe the sensation was as if the entity was melting into me, becoming one with me, like a serene numbness of sorts. After my body was enveloped in this welcoming feeling, the intimate feeling began again. I was taken by surprise, but needless to say, allowed to happen. This time, I was receiving fractions of images in my head. The only thing I could really catch was long black hair. And I'm not sure how long this lasted, but even when Devin returned to the room, it did not stop, and I eventually fell asleep. The third experience was on April 17th, 2012, a little over a month after the last encounter. Devin was at work that night, and I was lying in our room playing video games. For a few hours, I played Fallout New Vegas and decided to switch to playing Skyrim. After about an hour of playing Skyrim, I got bored and decided I wanted to smoke and watch a movie. I got up and went to the living room, grabbed the new Footloose, and returned to my room. I placed the DVD into the DVD player tray and closed it and allowed the previews to play out while I stood outside and smoked. About halfway or so through my smoke, I randomly began to think about the previous experiences I had encountered. I decided that he only came around the 14th of the month. The 14th of April rolled around and he was nowhere to be found. So I was certain that he would never return again. I decided to try and speak to it, thinking I must be silly talking out loud to the air. I said, "Where have you gone? Why haven't you come back?" It was odd, and after I asked the question, the feeling, well, more like an impression that I got. I felt, not physically, but as if his hands were placed on my hips, as if he were just holding me. I leaned back against what would be his chest if he were physical, smiled to myself, and retreated back inside. I played the DVD, and not even a minute after I lay down and got settled beneath my comforter, that the intimate feeling began again. This time I could feel his weight on me, and at first it was just my legs. My knees were literally pressing against each other bone to bone, and then my entire body. I wish I was laying on my right side facing the TV. He actually stuck around after we were finished, and I got the impression he was somewhat cuddling with me. I've had 2 or 3 more experiences with him, but I'm not sure how long these posts can be, and I am running out of time. If given the chance and this experience of mine is posted, I will share the rest of my experiences with him. I'm still not sure if it is just my imagination or if he is really there, but some insight would be greatly appreciated. Hey guys, it's What Lurks Beneath here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy my content and want to see all sorts more cool paranormal, spooky stuff, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And remember folks, always fear what lurks beneath.